The ballroom was shattered by chaos as glasses broke and voices screamed, the scam unraveling in front of stunned faces. Emily said, "You lied to all of us, Daniel. You ruined everything." Daniel smiled coldly, his charm cracking like glass. James said, "This is madness. How long have you been fooling us?" The chandeliers flickered as shadows played across the shocked guests. Daniel leaned back, calm but defiant, and said, "You wanted to believe I only gave you dreams." Sarah's voice trembled. "You betrayed me. I trusted you with everything." The crowd surged closer, anger spilling like a storm about to break. Daniel's smirk widened as he said, "Trust is the sweetest currency. And I spent it well." Emily shouted again, her voice raw. "This ends now, Daniel. You cannot walk away from this." The room tightened around him, tension boiling to the point of explosion. Daniel simply lifted his glass, as if chaos were a show staged only for him. The silence after the confrontation felt heavier than the screams that came before. Emily said, "How many lives have you ruined for your amusement?" Daniel's laugh echoed, sharp and cruel. James said, "This is not just a game, Daniel. This is destruction." Sarah's voice broke. "You made me believe in you when everyone warned me." The storm outside raged louder, as if nature itself raged against the deceit. Daniel said, "Belief is a cage you willingly step into, and I hold the key." The crowd gasped at his words, fury clashing with disbelief. Emily whispered to herself, "I should have seen it. Every sign was right there." The guests whispered among themselves, rumors spreading like fire, eyes darting between Emily and Daniel. Emily said, "You tricked me with kindness, and I let you in." Daniel replied, "You wanted magic in your dull world, and I gave it." James said, "No, you gave poison wrapped in gold." Sarah's voice quivered. "I told myself you loved me, but you only loved the game." The storm rattled the glass windows as thunder crashed above. Daniel raised his hand, silencing the whispers, and said, "This is the price of blind faith." Emily took another step forward, her fury no longer hidden. Emily said, "I gave you trust when no one else did, and you shattered it for applause." Daniel replied, "Applause is sweeter than trust, Emily, because it echoes longer." James clenched his fists, his voice sharp. "You built a house of lies, Daniel, and now the walls are falling." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "You were my safety, but you made me your fool." The chandeliers flickered violently, thunder roaring above as if the sky itself judged. The storm reached its peak as lightning streaked across the ballroom windows, painting faces in harsh white light. Emily said, "This ends with truth, Daniel, not another lie." Daniel raised his glass defiantly and said, "Truth is fragile, easily broken when people crave fantasy." James stepped closer, his voice like thunder. "Then tonight, fantasy dies." Sarah, trembling, whispered, "And so does the part of me that believed you." The room pulsed with dread, everyone waiting for the final strike. The ballroom's uproar left Emily shaken, her hands trembling as she stepped away from Daniel. Emily said, "I believed you because I needed hope, and you used it against me." Daniel replied, "You wanted to be seen, and I gave you a spotlight." James said, "He twisted your wounds into chains, Emily. Can't you see it now?" Sarah whispered, "He made me believe, too, but my love was only his mask." Thunder outside rolled, echoing her words with chilling truth. Daniel smirked, "The world wants lies dressed as dreams, and I am their tailor." The guests looked between them, torn between pity and disgust. Emily clenched her fists, saying softly, "You saw my fear, Daniel, and you devoured it." Emily's voice carried over the whispers, trembling yet strong. Emily said, "I only wanted to belong, Daniel, and you made that my curse." Daniel chuckled darkly. "You belonged the moment you craved what I promised." James shook his head. "You turned her desperation into your performance." Sarah said, "You made me believe my love was real when it was only your trick." A gust of wind rattled the tall windows as the storm howled. Daniel leaned closer, his tone cold. "Weakness is not a sin, but trusting me was. Emily glared, her voice breaking. I will not let you write the end of my story. Emily's voice softened, but her words cut deeper. Emily said, you saw a lonely woman, and carved yourself into the spaces she hid. Daniel sneered. Loneliness opens more doors than money ever will. James barked. And you exploited every one of them, shameless. Sarah whispered, I gave you my heart, and you made it your weapon. The guests stirred, murmurs swelling like the storm outside. Daniel's tone sharpened. You call it betrayal, but I call it survival. Emily stood taller, saying, No, Daniel, survival doesn't demand destroying everyone who trusted you. The tension deepened, hearts sinking into silence. Emily stepped closer, fire burning in her eyes despite her trembling. Emily said, Every kindness you showed was a dagger hidden in velvet. Daniel replied, Velvet makes the cut feel sweeter. James roared, This ends with you being unmasked, Daniel. Sarah said, I prayed you loved me, but now I see I was just another mask you wore. The thunder outside cracked, rattling glass panes as fear rippled through the guests. Daniel said coldly, Masks are only lies people beg me to wear. Emily raised her chin and said, Then tonight, every mask burns. The room erupted in gasps. Emily's voice cracked, but carried strength as she confronted him. Emily said, You saw my need for love and turned it into chains. Daniel grinned. Chains are only as strong as the hope that forged them. James' tone thundered. Hope is not your toy, Daniel. It is what you killed in her. Sarah sobbed. I wanted forever, but you sold me an illusion. The storm thundered above, lightning cutting across faces with brutal brightness. Daniel whispered, Illusions are better than truths that hurt. Emily stood firm, voice steel. No, illusions kill, and tonight we bury yours. The crowd froze, silence suffocating. The night pressed heavy on the ballroom, as whispers spread like cracks in glass. Emily said, Every word you spoke was a seed of poison dressed as promise. Daniel smirked. Promises are the only currency people spend without thought. James growled, Your charm is just venom wrapped in silk. Sarah whispered, You made me dream of a life that never existed. Guests leaned closer, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Daniel said, Dreams are what people pay me to sell, and I deliver them beautifully. Emily's voice hardened. Your beauty is a mask, rotting underneath. The chandeliers flickered once more, thunder clashing above. Emily stood taller, her voice trembling yet sharp. Emily said, I wanted to believe in something pure, but you made belief a trap. Daniel laughed softly, a trap you walked into with open arms. James snapped, You build illusions that devour hope, and you enjoy watching it die. Sarah said, I called you my safe place, and all along I was just your stage. The guests gasped, shocked by her words. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes cold. Love, hope, trust, each one is nothing until someone like me shapes them. Emily clenched her fists tighter and said, Then tonight I break every chain you forged. The crowd's whispers thickened like smoke choking the room. Emily said, Every kindness you gave was a mirror reflecting only yourself. Daniel replied smoothly, And you stared willingly into that mirror every time. James barked, Your reflection is hollow, Daniel, and tonight it shatters. Sarah whispered, I told myself I mattered to you, but now I see I was just one of many. Daniel smirked, Many or few, it changes nothing. Your hearts were all mine. Emily's voice cracked. Not anymore, Daniel, not after tonight. Thunder split the sky, the windows trembling from its force. Emily took a step closer, voice burning with fury. Emily said, You preyed on wounds and turned them into weapons. Daniel answered, Weapons are only dangerous if you hand them over, and you all did. James shouted, You manipulated every one of them, and you dare to call it survival. Sarah sobbed, You told me I was different, but I was never more than another victim. Guests stirred, torn between rage and disbelief. Daniel's gaze hardened. Victims? No, willing believers, and I was the story you craved. Emily snapped, "We crave truth, Daniel, not lies dripping in gold." Emily's voice rose above the storm, echoing through the hall. Emily said, "You thrived on my fear, Daniel, but you will not thrive on my strength." Daniel smirked. "Strength is just fear pretending it has teeth." James growled, "And tonight those teeth bite back." Sarah whispered through sobs, "You stole my love and left me hollow, but hollow hearts can still cry out." Guests murmured louder, outrage pulsing through the crowd. Daniel chuckled. "Outrage feeds me more than silence ever could." Emily declared, "Then tonight, Daniel, outrage becomes your downfall." The chandeliers shook violently as thunder roared overhead. The ballroom trembled under the storm's roar as the tension reached breaking point. "I know," Emily said. "You cannot hide behind smirks forever, Daniel. The truth will cut you open." Daniel grinned coldly. "Truth is only what people agree to believe." James growled, "Then let them see what you've hidden." Sarah's voice cracked, "I defended you when they doubted, but now I see I was blind." Daniel's eyes narrowed, his smile fading. Emily said, "You're not alone in this deceit, are you? Someone else played their part." Guests gasped, whispers rising into waves of suspicion. Daniel finally muttered, "Perhaps the real betrayal isn't mine alone." The crowd's murmurs rose into shouts, suspicion thick as smoke. Emily demanded, "Who stood beside you, Daniel, hidden in plain sight?" Daniel chuckled darkly, "The masks were never mine alone to wear." James barked, "Enough riddles, speak the truth." Sarah trembled, whispering, "No, don't." Emily's eyes widened, her voice shaking. "Sarah, what is he talking about?" Daniel smirked again. "Ask your dearest friend who whispered your secrets into my ear." Gasps split the crowd as Sarah's tears spilled, her silence screaming louder than any denial. James thundered, "It was you all along." The betrayal cracked open like thunder overhead, silence falling heavy after the revelation. Emily whispered, "Sarah, tell me it isn't true." Sarah's sob broke through, "I wanted to protect you, but I wanted more than that." Daniel sneered, "She wanted everything you had, Emily, and I gave her the chance." James roared, "You sold her out to the very man tearing you apart." Sarah choked out, "I thought he loved me too. I thought I mattered." Emily's heart sank as she said, "You were my sister in everything but blood, and you destroyed me." The storm rattled the glass violently, as if echoing betrayal. Emily's voice broke with fury and sorrow, echoing through the room. Emily said, "I trusted you, Sarah, more than anyone else." Sarah sobbed, "I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could control it." Daniel laughed bitterly, "Control is an illusion, and you both handed it to me." James growled, "You let greed blind you, Sarah." And Daniel fed on it. Emily stepped forward, tears streaming. "You were my anchor, and you chose to drown me." Sarah collapsed to her knees, whispering, "I am so sorry." Daniel smirked, raising his glass mockingly as guests gasped. The air thickened with silence, every heartbeat echoing in the vast hall. Emily whispered, "Sarah, you destroyed me as much as he did." Sarah cried, "I only wanted to matter, Emily, but I chose the wrong way." Daniel smirked coldly, "And still, you all chose me willingly." James thundered, "Your empire of lies crumbles tonight, Daniel." Guests murmured louder, their anger sharpening like blades. Emily raised her head, voice trembling yet strong. "This betrayal cuts deeper than your lies, Daniel, but it will also be your undoing." Lightning flashed violently, painting every face in harsh white. The storm outside reached its peak, rattling the glass as the ballroom became a battlefield of emotions. Emily said, "You tore everything apart, Daniel, but tonight you face what you built." Daniel smirked, "I built an empire of trust, and empires fall only when people lose faith." James thundered, "And faith is gone, Daniel. Every eye in this room sees you for what you are." Sarah sobbed, "I gave you everything, and you used me to destroy the only person who loved me." Daniel laughed bitterly, "Love is the weakest weapon, Sarah, and I wielded it well." Emily's voice shook but rose like steel, "Your lies collapsed tonight." Emily's hands trembled, but her words struck like thunder. Emily said, You fed on our hope, Daniel, but you cannot feed on us anymore. Daniel sneered. Hope is endless. There will always be more to consume. James stepped closer, his voice cutting. Not here, not tonight, not in front of those who've seen the truth. Sarah cried out, I see you for what you are, Daniel, and I hate myself for loving you. Guests surged forward, anger swelling like a storm tide. Daniel raised his glass mockingly. Hatred tastes as sweet as love, and I drink to it. Emily shouted, Drink to your end, Daniel. The storm cracked violently as the confrontation ignited into fury. Emily shouted, Every lie you told is a stone, and tonight we crush you beneath them. Daniel snarled, Crush me! You still stand here because of me. James roared, You built nothing but a stage of deceit, and the curtain falls now. Sarah's voice broke, I was nothing to you, just another pawn. Daniel smirked, Every pawn is necessary to win a game. Emily's voice pierced through, Then tonight, Daniel, the game ends with you alone. Guests roared in agreement, their voices crashing like thunder itself. The room shook as thunder rolled across the sky, glass trembling in its frames. Emily declared, Every chain you forged is broken here tonight. Daniel laughed, though his voice cracked. Chains are only broken when people want freedom, and they never do. James stormed forward, fury blazing. You mistake fear for loyalty, Daniel. And tonight you lose both. Sarah collapsed to the floor, whispering, I was nothing but your tool. And now, I see it. Daniel's smirk faltered, his eyes darting at the angry crowd pressing closer. Emily shouted, This is your collapse, Daniel. The crowd erupted in rage. The breaking point erupted, louder than the storm itself. Emily screamed, You cannot charm your way out this time. Daniel spat, Charm is power, and I wield it even now. James thundered, No, Daniel, your power dies with your lies. Sarah's sobs pierced the noise. I gave you everything, and you gave me nothing but ruin. The crowd roared, voices united in anger, surging like a wave. Daniel tried to raise his glass once more, but his hand shook. Emily declared, Your empire of lies is dust. The chandeliers shook violently, crystals falling as the storm crashed overhead. The storm's rage outside mirrored the chaos inside, yet a chilling silence hung over the ballroom. Emily, trembling but unbroken, declared, Daniel, your lies end where courage begins. Daniel's lips curled in defiance as he muttered, Courage is a mask, no different than mine. James stepped forward, voice thundering, No, Daniel, courage is truth sharpened against fear. Sarah sobbed from the floor, You made me believe I was nothing without you, but tonight I see I was never less without your shadow. The guests surged, their fury breaking the silence like crashing waves. Daniel lifted his glass once more, hand shaking, sneer breaking into desperation. Emily's eyes blazed as she cried, You will not rule with ruin anymore. The chandeliers above swayed violently, fragments of crystal raining down like shards of judgment. James' fist pounded against his chest as he roared, Every deception dies with you tonight. Sarah whispered through her tears, And so does the part of me you poisoned. The storm outside cracked, thunder echoing their rage. Daniel staggered back, eyes darting as the crowd pressed closer, fury blazing like 1,000 torches. Emily declared with iron in her voice, This hall will never echo your lies again. The air thickened with dread as lightning painted the room in cruel white. Emily said, Daniel, you fed on weakness, but tonight weakness becomes strength. Daniel snarled, Strength is only fear dressed in louder words. James shouted, Then hear mine. Your empire dies. Sarah's voice shook. I prayed you were my salvation, but you dragged me into ruin. Guests pointed, anger spilling like fire as murmurs rose into shouts. Daniel's smirk cracked, his charm dissolving into unease. Emily took a step closer, emerald gown trailing, eyes unyielding. No more chains, no more masks, she declared. James roared, This crowd you deceived will bury your lies. Sarah clutched her chest, whispering, I will never belong to you again. The chandeliers rattled as thunder exploded, shards trembling loose. Daniel shouted defiantly, "I am the dream you all wanted." Emily answered, voice sharp as steel, "No, you are the nightmare we wake from." The room erupted in agreement, fury echoing through marble walls. Daniel's glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the floor as his composure faltered. The ballroom quaked under the storm's wrath as voices roared louder than thunder. Emily cried, "Every lie you forged is ash beneath truth." Daniel growled, "Truth is only what fools agree to whisper." James barked, "No, truth is what crushes your illusions tonight." Sarah's sobs broke. "I gave you love, but you carved it into a weapon against me." The guests surged as one, gowns and tuxedos brushing, fury spilling like wildfire. Daniel backed against a marble column, sneer trembling. Emily pointed toward him, declaring, "This room is no stage for your deception." James stepped forward, his voice booming, "The curtain falls on you, Daniel." Sarah lifted her head, whispering with trembling lips, "And I walk free from your shadow." Thunder split the night, chandeliers clashing as crystals rained down. Daniel's defiance cracked, eyes narrowing in desperation. Emily's voice cut through the uproar. "Your empire of lies collapses here, under the weight of truth." The crowd roared in final unity, storm echoing their fury. The thunder outside roared like judgment itself as Daniel's mask fell. Emily's voice trembled yet rang clear, "You cannot stand against a world that sees you." Daniel spat, "They see only what I allowed them to." James roared, "They see you now, Daniel, stripped of lies." Sarah sobbed, "I gave you every secret, and you poisoned me with them." The guests gasped, their fury no longer restrained. Emily stepped closer, emerald gown flowing like fire. "No more stage, no more audience. You fall tonight." Daniel's eyes darted wildly, smirk dead, words faltering. James thrust a finger toward him. "You fed on trust, but now trust condemns you." Sarah whispered, broken yet resolute, "I will never let your voice define me again." The chandeliers clashed violently, shards scattering across marble like fallen stars. Daniel's knees weakened as the crowd closed in. Emily's voice rose above the storm, "Your empire of lies burns, and we rise from the ashes." The room shook with furious applause, rage transformed into unity. The breaking point thundered through marble and glass as the storm reached its peak. Emily screamed, "No charm, no lies, no mask saves you now." Daniel snarled, "I am power, and you will always crave me." James shouted, "No, Daniel, your power dies with this storm." Sarah's cry cut the noise, "I gave you my soul, but you left me hollow." Guests erupted in fury, their voices unified like thunder itself. Daniel raised his trembling hand, trying to hold the last remnant of defiance, but his glass slipped once more. Emily declared, "Your empire of lies is dust, scattered in the storm." James roared, "The truth shatters your chains forever." Sarah whispered, "And I am free." The chandeliers crashed down, crystal raining in violent brilliance. Daniel fell to his knees, surrounded by faces ablaze with rage and justice. Emily's voice rose above storm and chaos. "Tonight lies die, and truth stands eternal." The guests' voices joined in a deafening roar, thunder outside echoing their verdict. Daniel bowed under the weight of judgment, empire crumbling to silence. The storm began to fade, leaving the ballroom scarred by shattered glass and fallen chandeliers. Emily, her emerald gown torn yet radiant, whispered, "The storm has passed, but truth remains." Daniel on his knees muttered, "Truth is fragile, it bends to will." James stepped forward, voice low but steady, "Not tonight, Daniel, tonight it stands unbroken." Sarah, trembling but upright, said, "I thought love was a shield, but it was my blindfold." The crowd, still circling, breathed heavy with exhaustion and relief. Emily's eyes softened as she declared, "No mask endures forever, Daniel. Every lie must face its dusk." Daniel's smirk flickered weakly, eyes glazed with defeat. James crossed his arms, jaw tight, and said, "You thrived on shadows, but the dawn erases them." Sarah's voice cracked but carried, "I will not carry your weight anymore." Guests exchanged looks of sorrow, their fury ebbing into silence. The storm's final thunder echoed like a closing curtain, and Emily's voice lingered. "This hall will carry scars, but scars speak of survival." Daniel bowed his head. The empire of lies crumbled into nothing but dust beneath shattered crystal. The silence stretched, fragile as glass, until Emily spoke again. "Daniel, you built a kingdom of illusion, but kingdoms fall to truth." Daniel, his voice broken, whispered, "Illusion is all people ever want." James snapped, "No, they want trust, and you killed it." Sarah clasped her trembling hands together, saying, "I let you turn my heart into chains, but tonight I break them." The guests nodded, their voices murmuring in quiet agreement. Emily stepped closer, her emerald gown brushing shards beneath her feet. "You mistook their hope for weakness," she said, "but hope is strength that rises even after ruin." Daniel lifted his head, eyes hollow, muttering, "Then hope is my executioner." James pointed at him firmly, "No, your own hunger destroyed you." Sarah closed her eyes, whispering, "I am free now, though broken." The storm's light faded into moonlight through the shattered windows, casting pale silver over ruined marble. Emily lifted her chin, her voice resolute. "We walk into dawn, Daniel, but you remain in shadow." The guests began to leave, whispers behind, their anger cooling into sorrow. Emily said, "This hall will tell of betrayal, but also of strength." Daniel whispered bitterly, "Strength is nothing but suffering worn like armor." James answered firmly, "Then armor is what saved those you sought to ruin." Sarah's voice shook, "I wanted your love to be my light, but it was only darkness disguised." The chandeliers lay shattered, their crystals reflecting fragments of moonlight across the floor. Emily's eyes narrowed as she said, "Your lies shattered, Daniel, but truth shines even in shards." Daniel's head hung lower, his arrogance gone, only emptiness remaining. James looked toward the guests, voice steady, "We rebuild what he tried to destroy." Sarah wiped her tears, whispering, "I will carry scars, but not his chains." The storm had left silence heavy, but silence filled with healing rather than rage. Emily spoke again, softly but strong, "Tonight ends with truth, and truth will always rise." The air grew still, the echoes of thunder fading into memory. Emily stepped closer, her voice trembling yet sharp. "Every mask you wore is gone, Daniel. What remains is hollow." Daniel rasped, "Masks are all I ever was." James shook his head, saying, "Then your emptiness is your end." Sarah spoke softly, "I gave you my trust, my heart, but they were only fuel for your hunger." The guests stood firm, watching the final unraveling with solemn eyes. Emily raised her hand, declaring, "This hall no longer belongs to you." Daniel closed his eyes, whispering, "Then I am nothing." James growled, "You chose nothing when you chose deceit." Sarah looked to Emily, whispering, "He cannot haunt us anymore." The storm outside stilled completely, leaving only moonlight bathing the ruins. Emily's eyes glistened with tears, her voice calm. "We are broken, but we are free." Daniel bowed his head, silence consuming him, his empire finally gone. The final silence settled, heavy, but cleansing. Emily's voice carried, "Tonight we bury his empire of lies, and from its ruins we rise." Daniel whispered, "Rise without me, for I was never part of you." James said firmly, "You were a shadow, Daniel, and shadows vanish at dawn." Sarah breathed deeply, tears glistening, "I will not carry you into my tomorrow." Guests began to turn, their faces lifted toward the first faint glow of morning beyond the shattered windows. Emily looked to them and said, "This hall will no longer echo deceit, it will echo truth." Daniel slumped further, broken beyond words, his silence the final mark of defeat. James clenched his fists, saying, "We walk forward, unchained." Sarah whispered, "The storm is gone, and so is he." Moonlight gave way to soft dawn light, warming the ruins. Emily's voice, final and resolute, declared, "Lies die, truth lives, and we live with it." The crowd, unified, stepped toward the light, leaving Daniel in shadows, his empire dissolved forever.